Okay. Welcome everybody to our meeting. It's just 6 o'clock, so we'll get started and have the agenda up. So the first thing that's on there is a financial report.
Rick, why don't we move on to Frank, and then when Joe gets in touch.
Yeah, that's a grand idea. Frank, are you there?
Okay, yeah, I'm here.
Okay. I was thinking maybe we're just not going to actually have a meeting tonight.
I just had to click my unmute. There it was.
Okay.
All right, I can give you a little breakdown. I mean, I don't want to go into a lot of detail on the data. I'll save that for the production, report at the end. But basically, we, as you know, we got our clam seed from two different sources this year. And we got ours at the north area from Dale Parsons, which was 2 weeks later than those in the south. They were very small. We started with about 750 milliliter volume on each of the 4 upwellers up here. And I know that Madalocan Yacht Club ended up with 25,000 and milliliters, and Traders Cove had 26.3. So they grew from, less than 1 liter, like a quarter of a liter, to 25 and 26 liters. The numbers, we started out with about 330,000 animals as far as I can seed. I mean, we're going to be planting on Thursday about 200,000. We did have a problem with the Island Beach State Park. They had the accident. They lost their original batch, but since Dale Parsons didn't give us all that he had promised on the first visit I went down there, the second visit I came down with a few. With the second visit I went back and used those seed at Caddis, because we were receiving upwellers, salinity numbers in the 20, 19, 20. I said, maybe we can try to grow clams here, because we haven't been growing clams here for a while. I kept them there for a few weeks, and luckily we had them, because when Island Beach State Park went down, I had clams to give to her. And then, of course, we had the problem with Holiday Harbor. We had Holiday Harbor set aside at Traders Cove, his originals. And since that never was operational, at that point in the middle of the season, I was able to give the Holiday Harbor clams, some of them to Island Beach State Park. And then we had another interesting experiment this year. We had a woman who had come last year, Tricia, to observe our upwellers, because she was putting in a permit to receive her own down in Ocean City. And she came last year several times and checked out what the upweller looked like and how to operate it, and asked a lot of questions. And she finally got her upweller started, and she needed something to put in there. And we were able to give her about 35 to 38,000 seed clams that I had left. That were supposed to go to Holiday Harbor, but since there was no Holiday Harbor, we had extra. And by that time, the Traders Cove upweller was getting really crowded. We have over 160,000 at the Traders Cove upweller, so we needed a relief there. So that was a very good thing. We were able to get rid of some there and some at Island Beach. I'm not going to go into all the details, but the percentages of growth were tremendously high in the two upwellers at Madalocan Yacht Club and Traders Cove. And since we started with a small number, our numbers were big, like maybe 9,000%. But we'll be planting on Thursday, and I'm planning on bringing around 200,000 seed clams to the Waretown lease Thursday morning at 10:30. Anybody have any questions about any of that yet? Well, that's the report for now. I could go into a lot more detail, but I don't want to bore you. Okay.
Okay. All right. We'll just stay on this part of the agenda. We'll get on to item 3, educational activity. Deb?
I really don't have anything to report. I'll turn it over to you, Rick. because you
okay.
have the videos to discuss.
Okay, somebody.
Hey, Rick, this is Al. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just wanted to, it was our first experience, Pat and I, as the captains over at Traders Cove, and I just wanted to give a note of thanks to all the support that we had there. It made it very easy for us. We learned a lot, and we had great success. So, I was very, very pleased to participate this year and have the success that we did up there in the north.
Al, I want to thank you for taking over on that, you and Patrick. I appreciate that.
That's very good. Yeah, and I want to thank you guys for stepping up and stepping in and getting some new blood involved in our Upweller captains. So that's good. Okay, we'll go back to educational activity. What I've been doing, and I mentioned this, I was just getting started on it last time. I've been working on getting the 4 or 5 starter videos together, and I now have them, and I have established a YouTube channel for shellfish education, and we have 4 videos out there. The longest is about growing clams in an upweller and then planting them, and that's about 20 minutes. And then others about what goes on inside the shell is about 8 minutes. And so we have ones like that. And I just finished doing one with Joe G on raising spat on shell. So I'm just finishing the editing on that. So we are building the library as we had discussed. And Joe has put together a couple other presentations. And I encourage anybody who likes to do presentations to put a presentation together. When we're going to do a video, we need to start from a presentation. Now, Joe has taken some of these a next step and narrated them and then clipped in video and done one thing or another. But our idea is to have a library of videos that may have been produced by our members that we can use as part of whatever education we want, certainly ourselves. And if one of us is going to be a speaker at one of our Speakers Bureau speakers, they could go out, look at a video, and then use a rendition of that video at their speaking engagement. And Joe and I talked some about it, and I think he's got a great idea that those who want to use a slide presentation could watch somebody else do it first. So I think that's really a good one. As an output from this meeting, I'll send an email with the link to the videos that we have out there. And I think I mentioned last time, go out, take a look at them. If you find any problems, just look at the timeline at the bottom to say here, at 6 minutes and 43 seconds, that data were inaccurate, or hey, I noticed there's a typo in the slide that you used at 12 minutes and 15 seconds or whatever. Would appreciate you to help us stay on top of those. I think that's kind of it from educational activity. And
well, hey, Rick. Rick?
Yes.
I wanted to add about Angie. As you know, Rick, we are now an organizational member of Angie, the Alliance for New Jersey Environmental Education. And as such, they have now put us up on their newsletter that we're a member, and they've got a link to our website. They also have a page on their website that is resources for environmental education, and it's done by organizations. Things like Sea Grant and all these other organizations have sections on there with their education programs. So I'm going to ask you, Rick, if the videos are, I haven't been through all of them. I've been through some, but are they ready for prime time to put them on their webpage?
I think they are. I'd appreciate your taking a look at them for me.
Yeah, I've started doing some, but I've got a couple more to go here.
Right.
Maybe we can do that offline. I can contact you when I get through them all,
Yeah.
and then
great.
we'll talk. But I just wanted to bring up that we've got another outlet for our education stuff here, and they are going to be having a virtual winter conference for educators, and it may be time for us to participate in some manner. I don't know exactly what, but at least attend it virtually.
Yeah.
So I just want to give everybody an update on that. That's all.
Yeah, that's great. Any other, and so when I said I'm finished with what I had to say for educational activity, anybody else have questions or observations about our educational activities? Okay. Let's talk about the fall schedule for the rakeout. Frank, we're back to you again, I think.
Yeah, okay. I got a call from Lou yesterday, and he said that he spoke with Rich Labor, and they were looking for the day and the tide. The tide was right, and the time was right for Thursday morning at 10:30. And Rich will have a few of his friends. Anybody else that want, I guess, I will be going down there with the clams. I know Teresa had expressed interest in actually going into the water to do the planting too, but that's when we'll be planting. I know the clams from up here, and as I said, we started the season with 330,000, and we're going to bring them down about 200. So it's about a normal 16 to 20% loss. And usually that's how many we lose over the summer.
Okay. And Stan's going to be bringing over the ones from the island, and Beach Haven is going to overwinter, I forget, a couple of silos so that we have them there. They're very nice size. They must be 18 millimeters, 16, 18 millimeters.
Hello.
So we'll have those so that we have some animals to put in our upwellers next spring, even if the growers get to us late. Anything else about rake out and planting? Okay. Fundraising, Bill Walsh. I think I saw your name.
Hello, everybody. There's not a whole lot to report in addition to what we talked about last month, other than we will be filing the report, post raffle reports that we need to file with the state. So Joe, if you're still on, I will, you've got to file them. I just got the check number from Kelly for Eileen Alonso's big 50-50 win. So I'll be able to finish up those reports and then email them to you, and you've got to sign off and then file them. So.
Okay, sounds good.
All right.
So I have a comment when you're finished, Bill. It's Teresa.
Sure, go ahead.
So we spoke about a clam trail north last time. That I guess that's part of fundraising as well, correct?
Sure.
Kind of. So I just wanted to let everyone know that I got in touch with the person at Tom's River Yacht Club, and I don't know if Paul is on, but we can attend the meeting. I'm going to reach out to them the first Thursday of November and kind of give them our pitch about why we would like to have them have a clam at the Tom's River Yacht Club. I already spoke to Britta about someone kind of sponsoring a clam there. So that would be 2. And hopefully Tom's River Yacht Club will be interested, but we have to go on the first Thursday of November. And I don't know, Rick, I guess it's a Zoom call. I can find out the details and see who would go. Then maybe it's you and Paul and me, or yeah, I have no idea.
Absolutely. I'd be happy to do that, especially if it's Zoom and I don't have to drive up there.
Teresa, I'm
Yeah.
on if I'm on, so I'll have to check my calendar, but
Okay.
Teresa, I remember there was a number of questions about pricing and things like that. And I don't recall any, I mean, I wasn't involved in any other conversations after we had those initial discussions. I had sent you guys the contracts, and I know that you had some concern over the level of investment that we're, I guess, historically we have asked for at 3,500 for a big clam. So what's a
That's
part
right.
of, how's
And
that, how
so,
you gonna
yeah,
pitch
so
that?
Paul and I are supposed to be going through the contracts. To be honest, I haven't done it yet. But I would do it before the meeting, of course, so we can figure out what we're going to say and maybe how much they would raise and whether or not they need to, donate so much money every year. All of that has to be figured out because we have different, I think each clam has a different situation associated with it, it seems.
Not to my knowledge. I don't know.
so
what
Bill, the thing we were talking about was that I don't know if there was so much of an issue about the initial commitment, right, Teresa, because we obviously have to cover the cost of the clam and so forth, but we had a concern about things like, say, Barnegat Bay, if there was a contract that said they were required to pay a certain amount each year following that, because another nonprofit may not want to commit to that, that it doesn't make necessary sense to have nonprofit funds going from nonprofit to nonprofit. So we
Right,
were
that's
thinking that
exactly
perhaps
right.
if it's a commercial location, and it would be listed on the map, then maybe we can ask for that and ask them to donate to the pamphlet, whatever. But we had some concerns if it's a nonprofit, like say Barnegat Bay, about asking them to sign a contract which requires them to make an annual contribution.
Right, even the yacht clubs will not want to commit to an annual
Yeah.
contribution.
So that's why we discussed, Bill, I don't think you were on the call that day, but we discussed potentially having to have a different contract for what I'll call commercial enterprises, where we're bringing people to their location, which is a commercial benefit to them, versus just bringing people to a nonprofit.
Well, I'm certainly not opposed to carving out nonprofits and giving them a separate sort of package, but clearly, I think we need to come to some resolution on how we're going to go forward with commercial enterprises versus nonprofits, and what the numbers are going to be, and whether or not we're going to be looking for annual contributions. I mean, what the stuff I just picked up on what was, I guess, historically the way we had done things. Now, there's nothing to say that we can't revamp the entire program. I'm certainly not opposed to that. I think we need some consistency for how we would approach a business and how we would approach a nonprofit. I mean, I don't think we should be in a situation where we're having different levels of contributions for a similar entity like a business. They ought to be, if 3,500 is too much, it ought to be a different number. We got to set that number, and then we got to set the annual number, which I think now we're currently talking about $500. And if we're going to approach nonprofits differently, just ask them for an upfront number, and then the only thing in the contract would be that they maintain it in an image that is reflective of their organization and ours. And then if they don't want it, they give it back. But it's got to be theirs. They need to own it so that we don't have any additional liability issues. I understand we had one of those in the past.
Yeah, so maybe we have a small meeting, Rick and Bill, Paul, you and I meet about the best way to approach this, because apparently this Commodore is leaving soon, and so it would be a good time to kind of like address it and get it on the books, because he's willing to hear about it. So
Yeah, it's like a Supreme Court nomination.
I don't know if it, well, it
And
could
by the
be
way-
that. I mean, those yacht clubs, it could be something like that, actually.
Yeah, there was a conversation that we had that Teresa, Paul, and I had. Bill, you weren't on that, and this is what came out of that conversation. And I think I sent everybody the current contracts.
You did, Rick.
I also
They're all
found,
quite different.
yeah, right. And I found the contract for La Valette that I sent to you, Paul.
Yes.
If you didn't get it, let me know. But anyhow,
No, I haven't.
out of that conversation, I think we recognized we had really three different situations. One is a commercial enterprise. The other was a nonprofit like, say, Barnegat Bay. And the third was a municipality. And each one of them had some different implications. So I think using those, and I think this would be a really good thing if we all get together, Bill, and kind of use you as our sounding board. So we say, does this sound reasonable to you? And then you can give us your insights. And we kind of started that conversation off by saying, let's remember this started 15 years ago, and the kinds of contracts and those kinds of things that were put in place 15 years ago are I would say definitely no longer appropriate, especially when we look at the different types of sponsors who would hold them. So yeah, let's get a call together next week or this weekend or whatever, Teresa and Paul. You guys figure it out and let us know, and then we'll do a Zoom meeting about it.
Okay.
When is the Toms River Yacht Club meeting?
The first Thursday in November.
Okay.
So we only have 2 weeks to get it together. And I didn't want to commit to it, so I'll write them an email and, copy you, Rick, Paul, and Bill on it introducing the concept. We'll talk about, I'll draft it, send it to you guys. You can edit it, and then I'll send it off to them about what we want to talk about and the topic to get it on the board, discussion.
Good. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Anything else on fundraising?
Not for me.
Hello?
Yeah.
Can you hear me on the phone?
Yes, we can. Who's this?
This is Kathleen Space. I'm a student in the Coastal Stewardship Program this evening, and I'm also a member of Reclaim the Bay. And I'm driving back from Egg Harbor Township, or I would have been on the Zoom call with you guys. I'm kind of hearing the gist of your conversation, but can I just tell you, since I wear a different hat during the day, that when you're discussing some of this stuff in these different contracts, you might want to take a look at the way that you are classified. Reclaim the Bay as a 501c3, and just make sure that you're following those regulations, okay?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, somebody brought this up just last week. Our bookkeeper is a CPA, and
Okay, good.
It never hurts to remind us to be careful.
Yeah.
I don't want to
Well,
go to
I'm not saying that, Rick, I'm not saying that I want you guys to be careful, but I can just tell you that what I do for a living, I'm a revenue officer for the IRS. And so just certain things that you need to make sure that you're following, okay? That's all I'm going to say. So just make sure that you've got, whoever is doing your booking, keeping, and your treasury, and whatever else you're doing as far as when you're going to speak to these other commercial establishments or nonprofit organizations, make sure you follow the letter of the law, okay?
Got it.
But hey, Kathleen, this is
Okay.
Bill Walsh. I can tell you, since I've been involved, I believe I have been. So if you have some concerns that we're not, I'd love to talk about that.
No, I'm not saying that I have concerns that you're not. I'm hearing some conversation, and I'm catching the end of some of this conversation, but I just want to make sure that you're doing everything, and I'm sure you are. I'm not saying that you are not, okay? I just want to make sure that we have a consultant and we have somebody that we talk to make sure that we follow everything that we need to as a 501c3, okay? That's all I'm just going to say.
Okay.
And put it out there. I'm not saying that I'm not seeing anything different, please. I don't want you to think that, okay? But just I'm on this call and I hear a few things, and I just want to make sure that we're doing everything that we're supposed to, because you don't want someone like me, not me personally, or somebody from the IRS coming back and auditing you, and then there's some questions down the road. Okay?
So can I ask a question? So what did you hear that you think is concerning? Just out of curiosity.
Well, what I think I might find a little concerning is just, you're a 501c3, and you can accept donations, but you can accept donations certain ways. So I just want to make sure that you understand what those ways are, that you can accept those donations and what you can do with those monies, okay? Whether it comes from a commercial establishment, another 501c3, or even the public. I just want to make sure you understand how that plays in to what you're doing when you hold this meeting in November.
Right, well, understood. I mean, what we're doing there is we're not giving any services in return for any contributions that anybody makes to us with respect to these clams, other than some advertising, which is allowed under the regs as far as I know. But there's nothing of value that they're getting.
Okay. Well, you just might want to check that, is what I'm saying to you, before you go and do this meeting in a couple of weeks with that yacht club, okay? Just make sure you've looked at everything and the regulations and you understand it. I'm not saying that I'm hearing anything that you're not. I just want to make sure that you understand that. And I advise everyone in every 501c3 that I'm a member with that this is what you need to make sure that you're doing.
Okay. Thanks for the heads up.
Okay. You're welcome.
Okay, so the annual potluck. As I looked into this a little bit, it just got to be more and more concern over being together. I think with some of the numbers that are going up in the state of New Jersey and a whole lot of things, we're just not going to be able to do our potluck. I got together last Thursday with my Upweller cleaning crew. We had a drink after work, socially distanced in the open air, and I would encourage everyone to do that to maintain the camaraderie. But I think we'll just have to forego our potluck. Maybe we can do that in the spring, but not much we could do about that now. Any comments, conversation, observations? Okay.
I have a comment. Rick, thanks for the update on that. I thought that would be the case based upon a conversation we had a few weeks ago. For the coastal stewardship class, the graduation usually overlaps with that potluck dinner. So just talking informally with Kelly, envisioning, we don't have a date set yet, but the intention is to have a social hour graduation virtually, mail out these certificates for the graduates, but to have some type of social in mid to late November in lieu of an in-person gathering. So we'll make everyone aware of that. So if they want to join, bring their own shellfish, BYOB, congratulate this year's graduates. That's the plan. If people have suggestions of how to make that a great event virtually, happy to hear them as well.
Yeah, well, the Barnegat Oyster Co-op is practically giving away oysters, so everybody can negotiate a deal there.
Yeah.
So right now you buy 2 dozen and you get 1 free, but maybe, if we're, for that social event, you can negotiate there, Doug and Rick, about if we buy them, and they ship them to the house, like, there's some sort of buy 1 dozen, get 1 free or something.
Teresa, I was just going to suggest the same thing because I just got their email as well on the sloops.
Yeah.
Buy 2 dozen, get 1 dozen free. So maybe we can do something where, we have everybody who wants the oysters has them shipped, and instead of standing around the table and slooping the oysters, we do them on Zoom together.
a Zoom oyster feast. I love it.
I think it'd be fun.
Okay. I'll talk to both of you guys offline about that. That could be fun. Okay, nominating committee. Deb.
Okay. The nominations committee will be presenting its candidate slate for president and secretary to the board of directors for approval. And then the membership at large will vote on the slate at the December meeting. There have been a couple of issues that have come up, and the board of directors have determined that there's a need for a few changes in the bylaws. And so what we're looking at and what we're writing up is two changes in the bylaws that would allow for continuity and a continued knowledge base of the president, the outgoing president. So that president would serve as the chair of the board of directors and offer his knowledge and contacts and institutional memory to continue our growth. And then the second need is to clarify how the board of directors are selected to be appointed by the new president or the president that's in office for their 3-year terms. And we are thinking that it will be part of the nominating committee's duties as it was last year, but the difference will be that as our bylaws state, the president is the person that appoints the board of directors. So the nominating committee will offer suggestions, and then the president, after installation in January, will appoint. In this case, there are 2 board members that will cycle out of their third year of their term. You'll receive an email explaining the wording and the changes that the board of directors suggests in time for you to review it and offer any kind of critique so that it can be voted on at the November 17th membership meeting. That's it.
Very good. And I know from my conversation with Deb, we are still looking for nominations. If you would like to participate at the board level, or we have an opening for secretary and for president. If you know somebody you think would fit well into those roles, please let Deb know or let me know. Or if you yourself would want to do that, there's nothing wrong with saying, I've got some time and I'm happy to help out. So don't be the least bit concerned about self-nominating. I think we certainly need all that. And so as Deb was saying, just so everybody can look at the words, and there are not many words to describe what these minor changes are to the bylaws. They'll send those out, but we really want people, if you have comments, please get back to Deb or to me right away with your comments. If you want to discuss it on the phone, whatever, because we really want to be able to get that voted on. It's pretty simple and pretty straightforward next meeting, because we need to have our elections in December. And so we want to have one of our bylaws aligned with the process that we're going to undertake. So if anybody has this thing, when Deb sends them out, let me know or let Deb know about it.
With respect to most of the wording, it's really for clarification purposes, especially with the board of directors. And as far as the president stepping down, we really feel the need to hold on to that institutional memory and the context. And in our case, 15 years of Rick serving in that role, it would be absolute sin to let that go. So that's the reason for that. And I don't anticipate anyone having a problem with the wording and the addition to the bylaws.
Great. Any questions, comments, observations on nominating committee? Okay.
Hey, Deb,
Yes.
will, how many board members this year have to be either nominated by the president or whatever? Right, we're doing just a portion of the board members being
Right.
replaced.
And this year, only 2 people need to move on or to ask to continue. In other words, they have to be reappointed if they choose to continue to serve. Otherwise, the nominations committee would make suggestions to the incoming president as to who might be a good new board member.
And we have who those 2 people are now that are to be either replaced or remain on,
Yes.
right?
Yes, I will put that forward, but I have to contact the other person.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to clarify, that's all.
Because we've not done this until last year, I went by seniority and how long people had served. And so last year we had 3 or 4, and this year there are 2.
Okay, thanks.
Great. Okay, Joe, are you on a landline or on something where we can actually hear you and talk to you?
Yeah, I joined by phone. Can you hear me?
Yep, perfect.
Great. Yeah, sorry about that. I'm not sure what happened to my internet. So here's the financial report since the last meeting. We had income of $11,983. And that was made up of like $4,600 from membership and public support donations. So that was great. We had over $5,000 in raffle income come in and over $2,000 in merchandising. So it was a good period of time. Our expenses, need to find my expense page. Expenses were $4,999. So we had a net income of $6,983. So we had a good 4 or 5 weeks. Our checking account balance is $40,467. Our raffle account balance is $17,775. And our money market balance is $25,864. So that concludes my financial report. Any questions?
I just have one, and that is, so at some point we would move that money out of the raffle account into the general fund. Right?
Well, I don't know how that happens, but I don't remember doing it since I joined. We also, as a board, probably should talk about the money market and look at increasing that money and maybe investing some of it too to get better returns.
Yeah, that's a great thing to bring up to the finance committee about, if there's a way to make a few bucks on the few bucks that we have. That's a really good thing.
Right.
And I think also in the finance committee we should just discuss that. I know there is a minor procedure that we need to go through that verifies that the money the money that is raised in the raffle must be used for the projects of the organization. And I think that's pretty much all it says. But I think we should run that through the committee, and I think that would be a very appropriate conversation. And in that conversation, say if we've got money that we're not going to use because we're now going into the winter slow period, let's see if we can put that in something that could generate a little revenue for us.
Yeah, okay.
Great.
Hey, Joe,
Yeah.
I was just wondering, how does this all compare to what our budget for the year was? Are we on track with the budget?
Well, if you look at our revised budget, we're in really good shape. We're ahead, we're exceeding that budget.
Okay,
Because our expenses are less and our income's more.
sounds good.
Yeah.
Hey, Joe, when are we going to put together, when is the finance committee going to put together the budget for next year?
Yeah, that should be on the slate of work to do in the near future. So in the next couple of meetings, should start working on that.
Joe, the reason I ask is that we're closing down the upwellers, and if there's any money that a particular upweller will need for maintenance or for repairing things, they should do it now instead of waiting until the springtime. So the
Yeah,
finance
good point.
would know.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So anybody who's on the call that is either an upweller captain or associated with an upweller that knows that there's some things that need to be done, like I think isn't Island Beach State Park's tank pretty old? I think there's some things like that. We want to make sure that that Lou knows those things so he can put that together to get it to the finance committee when we're putting the budget together, because otherwise the finance committee has no way of knowing what those requirements would be, and Lou can't just guess either. So if you know things that we're going to need, please let Lou know, and Lou then will put those things together to get to the finance committee.
Right, so Rick, we were supposed to do that. The upweller captains at the close of the upweller were supposed to take inventory and send it to you and Lou as to what we need inventory wise and what we need fixing.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And I think I remember, and maybe it was at the board meeting, Lou, I think you said you've got I know that there exists a list of inventory items, and I'll just ask Lou that you get that over to Kelly to get out to the upweller captains. So they've got
Will do.
Great.
And Lou, I had a visitor at the upweller last week who is a retired state police officer, but he's a handy kind of guy and very interested in potentially building us new tanks. So he feels that he could knock off new tanks in a weekend, a new tank in a weekend, complete with fiberglass. So I'm going to send you his name and contact information so you can, discuss this with him. He would donate his time and feels pretty confident that he would have people to help him.
Wow, that'd be great.
Is he a Reclaim the Bay person or he just showed up?
No, he says he walks there all the time. He has investment property in Seaside and in other towns. And he is very much interested in all that we're doing. And he peeks into the tank all the time. And this was the first time that he saw anybody there. And I filled him in on what we do. And he said, well, could I build a tank on my property? Well, But then we got to talking, and he was very excited about the thought of building tanks for us.
Great. Okay, we're wrapping up. We got 10 minutes. So maybe we have 5 for any other comments, observations, questions?
Rick, this is Bill Weiscarver. I have a question.
Yeah.
Lou, it might be more tailored to Lou. This year at the Holiday Harbor site, we switched over to spout on shell, and we have insufficient electrical capacity to run the upweller. So, Lou, will that be placed in a budget for next year, like running another line to it?
I'm sure we're going to put that in as a request. No guarantee that it's going to come.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I talked to Dominic and to Jack about this, and I think Lou has too. And there is a strong question in their mind as to whether we would need that spat tank capacity next year or not. So kind of the first question is, do we need a spat tank out there? And then if the answer to that is yes, then we need to think about some way to fund running the electrical out to it. So it's a good point.
What's in the judge's mind doesn't really matter.
Okay, thank you.
Are the words on the paper.
Other questions or comments?
I just have
Paul Jeffrey, I just want to.
This list of needs for maintaining the. I think it's worth a discussion with whoever the accountant is, because some of this stuff will be recorded as capital, I guess, and some of it will be recorded as just O&M costs, operating and maintenance costs. And then I think for the future, that as the upweller captains are asked in each year about what they think they're going to need for the following season, that they'll be able to have a sense of what ought to be capital, what ought to be O&M, and then maybe we just develop a kind of a sheet for them, so that when this all comes to the finance committee, in the event that we have to prioritize stuff because of limited capital, we'll be able to do that in some reasonable fashion and not delay the process and make sure that everybody's getting what they need. Does that make any sense?
Yes, it does. These are some of the things that we hopefully, we should have been building to during my administration, but since I'm leaving, I'm going to turn it over to somebody else. No, but that's a great point to come out of the finance committee. And I think that you just put your finger on it the right way so that we know what the priorities are. Something about maintenance, we may be able to defer that based on availability of cash. Something that's a capital thing that we got to do, that's building a new tank or something like that, is going to have a higher priority. So I think this is great, and we probably should be considering a finance committee meeting within the next couple of weeks.
The Republican Senate hijacked Obama's court nominee, and that's one reason why Trump's
Okay, it sounds like somebody's been ready to listen to the debate, so maybe that's a good indicator that we ought to end our meeting, unless there's something else.
Rick, it's Paul Jeffrey. I was going to just want to thank you for sending the link through to that ocean wind open house. I don't know if anyone else attended it today. It is absolutely amazing how they have set up a virtual wall with videos on the wall and individual doors where you enter the breakout rooms. It was absolutely fantastic session. There's one again tomorrow evening, and then there's one on Saturday. If anybody is interested in that ocean wind project, it is absolutely the place you can ask all your questions. They must have had in total 20 Ørsted experts and consultants available to answer questions.
Well, that's great to hear. I couldn't make it. I'm really glad that you did. I want to do a debrief, and that's one of the things that we're trying to do a better job of, is get the word out when things like that are available. So that's good. Thank you for commenting.
It's utterly amazing. If you haven't done it, again, you need to sign up in advance. Go back to Rick's email. There's one tomorrow evening and one Saturday morning.
Cool.
Vic,
Yes.
it's Kathleen Space again. I have to echo what Paul said too, because I registered and attended as well. And I just wanted to know, you talked about in an email with me of possibly trying to get somebody from Ocean Wind, Chris, to come out to speak to Reclaim the Bay, virtually, of course. So do you think that there's a prospect of that happening? Because I did get her email information today, if that would be helpful to you, and I could forward it on to you.
Yes, we are intending to have them as part of a panel, actually, where we would have Doug, who's familiar with what's going on with wind, and he did we did kind of one of these before, but we didn't have Worsted. So we are planning on that, and I'm waiting to hear back from them. And my contact is Chelsea, because Chris has moved kind of up the ladder, and Chelsea is now making arrangements for these types of things. And just to follow on with that, if you are interested and you can get to their open house, it would be beneficial, because then you would have the open house knowledge when we have the session with them. The Lateral Society will also be part of that presentation, as will JC Nair. So I think we'll have a very interesting panel, and not a confrontational panel, but an informational panel. What's going on? How do these things implicate us? What could individuals do as stakeholders, and so on and so forth. So there'll be more on that in the future.
Okay, and just to tell you, I attended today as well, and I was amazed at the technology that's out there, and going through the doors, and just the time that the one of the doors that I went through had to do with the connectivity and what's going to happen as far as that's concerned. And I was amazed at the time that was spent to try to answer everyone's questions. So if you're not registered, you need to register. But I also heard too that if you're not registered, Orsted is going to try to take some of those conversations and post them to their website, but it's just going to be a few days after these open houses. So if you're not able to go to the open houses, you're hopefully still going to be able to see some of that information. So they are trying to do as much outreach as possible, and I was very impressed with them today from that standpoint.
That's encouraging. And by the way, I'm going to meet with Ernie Panizak up at Viking Village, which they have all the Larson boats that are the longliners and gill netters and scallop boats. I'm sure I'll get some interesting perspective from the commercial fishing world on this. Okay, I guess we really need to stop now, because there's only 3 minutes till Doug starts his stewardship class. So thank you all for attending, and I will save this recording and put it out so those who couldn't attend can see the things that we discussed. So see you all later.
Perfect timing. Thanks, Rick. Yeah, if you stop, there we go. Cool.